and welcome back to Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. You know, I am always excited to be back here with the juice. So yeah, guys, welcome back to Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, you do want to subscribe to the channel. We do brilliant stuff over here, amazing stuff. We talk football. Fiifi-Manfred talks football every time here, and then we discuss everything from Chelsea, every other team, but especially we talk a lot more about Chelsea and every other stuff that concerns every club in the world. So yeah, welcome to Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. There's a lot to talk about, guys. But please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do all. Come on, you should subscribe to the channel first. Turn on notification because there's going to be a lot more videos. In fact, in the next few hours, I'm going to post about 3 to 4 videos. A lot of the exclusives. There's a new update on Chelsea's new boy that's going to join the club. But today, there's a bigger question of the dealings of Roman Abramovich and why Chelsea are going to be deducted 3 points after the international break. Oh my God. Because everything seems to be going on for Chelsea Football Club. Everything was going on for the club. Almost the team seemed to have gelled. Everything kept on going well. And all of a sudden, Chelsea are in trouble. People are beginning to ask questions of Roman Abramovich. And in fact, this is a big deal. It is some of the things that you get when your team is owned by a billionaire and not necessarily the equity guys. Because you know what? Usually the equity guys know how to handle some of these issues. They don't just throw money into the club and whatnot. But boy, when it comes to offshore issues, it is a big deal. But what is the juice really? Let me give it to you here. So yesterday, 2 days ago, The Guardian had released a report. Essentially a journalistic work that has been done by a German outlet on Chelsea and fresh reports on Roman Abramovich. So by way of context, Roman Abramovich, the erstwhile owner of Chelsea Football Club, who has been sanctioned by EU and of course the British government, did end up selling the club. The club is with Todd Bowley, Baghdad Eghbali, and the new people now. But essentially, the team is in trouble. Why? Because it looks as if under Roman Abramovich, Chelsea did circumvent FFP rules, and then they tried to pay off money by himself to money that should have been paid by the club. He did pay it. He footed the bills of that to make sure the club didn't go into any other distress. So these are the facts. According to this report, the players that did benefit, the beneficiaries include Eden Hazard's agent. You remember the transfer of Eden Hazard and how he got to Chelsea Football Club. At the time, everybody wanted him. Apparently, Chelsea had contacted his agent, paid him some huge commissions. It's in these commissions that Chelsea had to use the offshore account or an offshore vehicle from Roman Abramovich to get this done. Apparently, this offshore account is based somewhere in Greece. They describe it in a write-up in the Guardian as an offshore vehicle, but essentially it's an offshore account that paid off some of this stuff. You remember the story of Willian from Russia, Angie Makaskala, the times when he was in Shakhtar Donetsk and in Ukraine, the issues between Russia and Ukraine, how he almost ended up at with Daniel Levy at Tottenham Hotspur, and essentially even when he had done his medicals and whatnot, Chelsea were able to get a deal done through Marina Ganoskaya and some intermediaries for him to become a Chelsea player. That was a bizarre story. In fact, it's one of the most bizarre transfer stories in the modern football era in the English Premier League. But yeah, this report points to some of these things, that the offshore vehicle did pay the owner of the club that Willian was in with, and just days before that, they had made up payments with respect to scouting of players and whatnot. It is dependent if those things had been reported to the FA or not by Chelsea themselves. If they have not, then that's an issue. Apart from him, there's also the conversation of Samuel Eto'o, who was in Russia at the time. Player had some stints with Angie Makashkala at the time. And he also moved to Chelsea at some point in time. Apparently, it is his transfer is also embroidered in some of these mess, quotes and unquotes, that Chelsea have found themselves in now. So Hazard, Willian, and Samuel Eto'o. There's also an associate of Antonio Conte, who's called Filippo Corella, who essentially also is also part of those people that benefited from this offshore vehicle payment for Roman Abramovich that he had done in the past. you see, and there are also some Chelsea officials who worked at the club who are also part of these things, and apparently, so this is this hasn't been ruled on yet. This will take some time. UEFA usually has forgets about some of these things when this thing are happening years ago. There's a time lapse where UEFA says, okay, this doesn't make sense again. It was with the Elsa administration, but the Premier League doesn't really forgo some of these things. They still go back and they punish teams for it and whatnot. Remember the issue of Manchester City. City are going to appeal. The sanctions aren't in. It's a long process. It's a long, lengthy, excruciating process. In fact, it's a media excruciating process. But really, you see, I think that the most bizarre part of this whole thing is the fact that Chelsea just began to win. Chelsea weren't winning. We're struggling to win, getting points together, playing good football. All of a sudden, the team begins to win, and now they're in trouble. Now everybody's looking over their shoulder. Is this going to rock our season? Are we going to have issues with our gameplay or our points that we are going to build up? This is going to be some issues and whatnot. It's a lot. But you see, these are some of the cons when it comes to having a team owned by a billionaire. I mean, that's the truth. A one-man owned team, usually billionaires, have these teams as their playthings, and they want the team to succeed. He sees it as a mode or a way to fund his ego and then make himself excited. When Chelsea wins, Roman Abramovich was excited. When Chelsea won, he feels like a success, and he will do everything. So if this is true, Roman Abramovich will do everything. If Chelsea is in a tight corner and they need the team itself can't raise the money to fund something, Roman sees that as his plaything. He would want to fund it for the team to be successful. In turn, in the long run, he feels successful as well because his baby, his plaything is successful. So it is a thing with teams that are owned by billionaires. That's exactly what they do. You remember the former owner of Everton, who is also Russian, majority shareholder. I mean, some of these things do happen over and over and over again. It's the reason why the Qataris and the Saudis moved away from just one person owning clubs, and then they went into a state-owned club system where they themselves will fund it with a machinery. I mean, that's much more powerful than one person that can circumvent issues than just one person, that can run the show better than just a person. It is important in that regard when you talk about clubs that are being owned by either of just a nation, one person, a billionaire, and whatnot. It's important, very, very important. In fact, it is paramount in the conversation of that. So now this is something I was expected, especially since Roman Abramovich is off and now nobody is really covering his tracks. There's nobody at Chelsea that wants to cover his tracks. Somebody like Marino Ganaskaya would have done a good job at covering the tracks for him. She's off the table. She has no part to play at Chelsea Football Club. Now the new guys that have come are different. And I'm not saying that they are good guys or they are without blemish or something. But the thing is that these are equity guys. Equity essentially is about investment. These are people that buy ailing or failing entities, institutions, whatnot, agencies, like Chelsea Football Club, like a club like Chelsea. Then they invest in it, knowing that they can rebirth this club, they can rebirth this thing that they've bought, and they're going to get huge returns in the near future. So they essentially do not circumvent. They know the numbers game so well that they know where to put that, where to put this, and say, okay, now we can go and sleep. It will go, and we are going to get our money back. So these guys are sometimes, in fact, most of the times, they're very prudent in terms of using money. And when they come into clubs like this, they don't want any future issues. So they will tend to uncover. I'm not even sure. I'll not even be shocked if Todd Bowley and Baghdad Debali handed over this information. You remember a couple of months ago, a similar issue did come up, and the reported that Chelsea actually sent this information to the Premier League because they weren't ready to be incriminated in something like this. So it does happen. It does happen. And that's the thing between an equity-owned business group and then a business group that's owned by an individual or a billionaire who can fund the club himself and whatnot. But you see, my big problem with the English Premier League and the Premier League is that usually these things just come up when Chelsea are doing well. I mean, Chelsea were in a very bad place. Nobody was saying nothing. People were just saying bad stuff about how Chelsea were playing. Yes, Mauricio Pochettino has issues with tactics 3-1-6 instead of a 3-2-5. And then all of a sudden, Chelsea begins to win. Chelsea begins to make proper inroads, and all of a sudden, this task comes up to rock the boat of Chelsea Football Club, and people begin to look over their shoulders. That wow, they're going to be 3 points after the break. But you see, I've seen the Manchester City process, and I don't think that the 3 points will come after the break. Trust me, they will not deduct any 3 points from Chelsea. They won't, because I've seen with Manchester City, and I know that these processes are very long. They take a lot of time. The prosecutors are going to do a thorough job. It's not just a day job or a day or two job. It's going to take some time, and they will make sure that before they bring out their own findings, their findings are going to be watertight, and opposing lawyers will have a difficult day trying to make nonsense of what they've brought out. So it's a long process. And whilst I think that report from the Guardian isn't entirely false, I think that you look at it and you're like, okay, fine, yes, there may be some deductions, but it's not going to happen now, and possibly the deductions are not even going to happen at all at Chelsea Football Club. But yeah, I mean, essentially, this is why a lot of the clubs in the English Premier League don't necessarily like Chelsea, or maybe that's why they hate Chelsea. Because if Tottenham Hotspur are going to buy Willian, and they're almost done with it, he has done his medical and whatnot, and all of a sudden, because you own an offshore vehicle, an offshore account, you can pull the strings and get him out of them. Definitely, they're not going to like you. Eden Hazard was loved by almost everybody. Manchester United, Barcelona, all the big teams in the world wanted Eden Hazard, but just because Roman Abramovich at the time could pull strings, he was able to get Eden Hazard to Chelsea. So these are some of the things. These are some of the reasons why these things do happen. Of course, Antonio Conte did come to Chelsea. What's a lot of guys? A lot of his people did come to Chelsea, and sometimes you have to find ways to pay his associates. His associates may not necessarily be able to be paid through the Chelsea system, because maybe they are not employees, but they are just associates. They perform a certain role, and Roman Abramovich most likely doesn't want to have these monies on the books of Chelsea. Because if you have these monies on the books of Chelsea, then you have to account for it. He has to balance. They may not have that money as a club to balance that. Then they pay him over the table, over the counter, through offshore accounts with those vehicles. It's very important. It happens in a lot of clubs, especially those that are owned by billionaires. They do it a lot of the times. Also, some Chelsea officials, and my thinking is that these officials most likely were not staff that were rode in, because they are rode in, and definitely you'll be paid by Chelsea, not Roman Abramovich or his offshore account. Maybe there's also a job that was done in certain areas that had to be paid through an offshore account, and they had to do that. So yeah, that's it. While Chelsea are getting everything sorted on the field of play, it looks as if some drama is about to happen off the field of play. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. I'm consistently glad to be here. Welcome back again to the channel. Guys, there's a lot of videos coming in. You should subscribe. Trust me, you should. You're missing out if you've not. And do turn on notifications so immediately every video drops, you are first to have it. My name, Fiifi-Manfred. Doesn't change. Great to see you in a few hours. Another video drops. Bye.